What happens when the world's biggest economy starts to crumble? With a banking collapse, an upcoming recession, and various countries turning against the US dollar, the United States of America is facing an economic crisis of unprecedented proportions. According to recent reports, 37 million people in the country live at or below the poverty line, including 1 in 6 children. This number is not only shocking but also scary, highlighting the urgent need for action to address the economic crisis. But how did we get here, and what does it mean for the rest of the world? In this video, we'll be delving into the current state of America's economy and the factors that have led to its downfall. From the banking collapse and upcoming recession to the mounting debt and global backlash against the US dollar, we'll be examining the various challenges that America is facing and the implications they hold for the rest of the world. So get ready for a deep dive into the state of America's economy and the future that lies ahead. The financial world was rocked by a series of stunning collapses in the second week of March. The biggest banking failure in America since 2008 saw the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation, FDIC, take control of SVB, as panicked customers withdrew their deposits en masse. Just 2 days later, the FDIC was forced to shut down Signature Bank after a similar run on deposits. Both banks had an alarmingly high ratio of uninsured deposits, making them particularly vulnerable to a sudden loss of confidence. Meanwhile, across the Atlantic, Credit Suisse was teetering on the edge after suffering a massive sell-off that wiped out a third of its market value. Swiss authorities were forced to intervene with a backstop to prevent a total collapse, but investors and customers alike are deeply concerned about the bank's long-term prospects. The situation in America was no less dire, as First Republic Bank faced an all-out run on its deposits. With the bank on the brink of collapse, U.S. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen and Jamie Dimon, CEO of America's largest bank, came together to devise a plan to rescue the First Republic from total ruin. The result was a private sector agreement to deposit billions of dollars of cash into the beleaguered bank to stop the bleeding. It was a desperate move in an increasingly precarious financial landscape, but will it really improve the situation? The question no one has answer to. The troubles in the United States do not end with a banking collapse, but if we claim that as merely the tip of the iceberg, we will not be wrong. The cost of living is spiraling out of control, and it's hitting American families hard. From the grocery store to the gas pump, prices for basic necessities are skyrocketing at an alarming rate. Parents are forced to travel long distances, even out of state, to find baby formula for their children due to severe shortages. Ground beef, once an affordable staple, has almost doubled in price since 2008, with a pound of meat now costing upwards of $4.60. Even essentials like flour, milk, and eggs have seen significant increases in price, with some spiking by as much as 15%. And it's not just stapled goods. Even luxury items like seafood have become more expensive, with prices surging by 11% compared to last year. But that's not all. Brace yourselves for a potential food supply crisis that could hit America hard this summer. The president of the National Black Farmers Association has sounded the alarm bells, warning that farmers are abandoning their crops at an alarming rate due to a multitude of factors, including poor planting weather, skyrocketing prices of seeds, fertilizers, and fuel, and the numerous supply chain issues that have plagued the industry. For low-income households, this trend is particularly terrifying. Recent data show that the poorest 40% of Americans are already spending more than half of their incomes on necessities like food and housing. With prices continuing to climb, it's becoming increasingly difficult for struggling families to make ends meet. Meanwhile, the rich get richer, with billionaires like Elon Musk amassing fortunes even as the economy teeters on the brink of recession. The wealth gap continues to widen, as those at the top reap the rewards of a system that favors the few at the expense of the many. The situation is dire, and without immediate action, it's only going to get worse. Moreover, the education system in the U.S. is in turmoil as more than 1.5 million students are unable to pay for their school lunches due to a shocking nationwide increase in lunch prices over the past 2 years. As a result, a whopping 43% of schools have reported an alarming increase in the number of students going hungry last school year. The gravity of this situation is exacerbated by the fact that the average meal debt per child is a staggering $170.13 per year, contributing to a total national public school meal debt of $262 million. The recent energy crisis, with a shortage of diesel fuel and electricity nationwide, has left people scrambling for resources. Experts are calling this the worst crisis since the Arab oil embargo and the Iranian Revolution of the 1970s. With energy prices skyrocketing and rolling blackouts becoming a daily occurrence, the average American is struggling to keep up. Adding up, the cost of childcare in the U.S. has reached astronomical levels, making it nearly impossible for working families to keep up. Shockingly, the cost has increased by a whopping 40% in just 6 years, surpassing what is considered affordable. In 2015, childcare made up 7.2% of a family's income, but fast forward to 2021, and that number has climbed to a staggering 9.6%. The financial strain this places on families, especially those on a tight budget, cannot be overstated. On top of that, the stock market is on shaky ground, and experts are sounding the alarm bells for a potential crash. The recent collapse of FTX has only added to the uncertainty and anxiety surrounding the market. Investors are becoming increasingly cautious, with many shifting towards defensive investment strategies to protect themselves from the impending storm. But it's not just FTX that's causing concern. The entire market is experiencing a slowdown, with growth rates expected to contract by 8% in the first quarter and 6% in the second quarter. This could spell disaster for investors who have been riding high on the market's recent success. Even worse, the consensus earnings estimate for 2023 is currently at a 2% contraction, and this could still decrease further. With so much uncertainty and volatility, it's no wonder that investors are feeling uneasy. The potential for a market crash looms large, and the consequences could be dire. Adding to this chaos, social unrest has surged to unprecedented levels. The country is experiencing an alarming increase in civil disorder, which is causing fear and uncertainty among the general public. To make matters worse, the U.S. is currently facing diplomatic tensions with major world powers such as Russia and China, leading to further instability in international relations. But the bad news is, this does not end here. The world's economic order is on the brink of a seismic shift, as a group of emerging economic powers, known as BRICS, is preparing to launch a new currency that could rock the very foundations of the current global financial system. This new currency, which is backed by gold, could spell the end of the US dollar's dominance as the world's reserve currency. The BRICS, made up of Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, represent some of the world's largest and fastest-growing economies. For years, these nations have chafed under the US-dominated international financial system, which they believe unfairly benefits developed countries at the expense of the developing world. Now, they are striking back. The BRICS have announced plans to create a new currency that will challenge the US dollar's supremacy and provide a new avenue for international trade and investment. The implications of this move are staggering. The US dollar has been the world's reserve currency for over 70 years, allowing the US to print its way to economic prosperity and maintain its global hegemony. However, with the BRICS now challenging its supremacy, the dollar's days may be numbered. The US has already responded with hostility, imposing sanctions on Russia and China in an attempt to undermine their economic power. But it remains to be seen whether these efforts will be enough to stave off the rise of the BRICS. The combination of these crises is leading many Americans to question their future and the stability of their country. Will the government be able to handle these challenges? Can they ensure the safety and well-being of their citizens in the face of these unprecedented events? Only time will tell. But for now, the situation looks dire and uncertain. Thank you for tuning in, and if you found this content informative, please consider liking and subscribing to stay up to date on the latest economic news and analysis.